In the early 2000s until about 2010 or so, all Americans in every generation were benefiting from a constant annual increase in lifespan. Rates of terrible diseases like cancer and heart disease were all falling. We were sitting pretty back then. The world was our ever increasingly immortal oyster. Then something happened. If you're a millennial like me, then we are now 70% more likely to die at any given moment than we were in the 2000s. And that's from multiple causes across the board. We're not just talking about any one little thing, we're talking about pretty much everything. And if you're an American millennial like I am, then we're also over twice as likely to die than our peers who live in any other high-income country. It might not be crazy to say that American millennials are suddenly an endangered species. It's a truly terrifying and really alarming trend. And the word alarming is being way overused in all the headlines that sprouted up about this, but rightfully so, because I think that's the most accurate word to describe it. What's also mind-blowing to me is that nobody put this together until now. And all of this comes from a new study that analyzed data over the span of 43 years, from 1980 to 2023. So unfortunately, this is very real and very well documented. What in the actual holy hell is happening? And should you buy a portable fallout shelter immediately and just live in that forever? I'm Kevin Lankus, and I'm definitely personally falling apart, so I completely believe all of this is true. Let's go through it and see what exactly the research says before we all panic so much that we just live in a giant bubble together. The new study comes from three authors, Elizabeth Wrigley Field of the University of Minnesota and Andrew Stokes and Jacob Bohr of Boston University. The trio found that Americans in general are dying at a higher rate than citizens of other high GDP countries. 3 million of us die each year, and a whopping quarter of that number wouldn't happen if we lived anywhere else. So that's really disturbing on its own. But then when you divide up that whole by the generations and you lower the maximum age value, you find that the number grows exponentially. So more extra Americans are dying who are younger, which is really not how life is supposed to work, according to all those Discovery Channel specials I remember watching as a kid. But all of those are all dead now too, and it's all just reality TV on education networks anymore, so maybe our brains are just giving up, having to watch all that all the time. Looking at Americans under the age of 65, if the death rate matched our peer countries, then we'd be seeing 50% less deaths annually. That's half. Like half of all those people in that age group are dying because they live here. But more astounding still, when we look at early adults, or Americans between the ages of 25 to 44, which are mostly millennials and some older Gen Z, then the percentage of people who are dying that probably wouldn't be elsewhere skyrockets up to 62%. Nearly 2/3 of younger Americans are dying who simply shouldn't be. Now, one of the craziest things about this research is that the authors can't point to a single cause. It would be one thing if we found that rising rates of some type of cancer, or if COVID was simply more deadly here than we thought, but we're looking at rising mortality rates from multiple causes. And not just from illness either, accidents, car crashes, and drug overdoses too. When Stokes, Bohr, and Wrigley Field, her name is Wrigley Field, when they drew up this study, they thought that they were going to look at the fatality rates from COVID in America versus the rest of the world. And they did do that, and they came away with some insight too. For instance, they confirmed again what we've been seeing in the research before this point, that because the US response to COVID was worse than other countries, we had a higher death rate from the pandemic than other high-income nations. Overall, Americans died at a rate of 3 people for every 2 elsewhere. And younger people in particular had a big mortality spike during the American flavor of the pandemic also. Anything I say about a causal relationship to the data would be just total speculation, but a lot of research out there has been pointing out just how difficult life is for younger Americans. I remember the subprime mortgage lending crisis when speculators crashed the housing market because I graduated into that in 2008. And there was a ton of research done on the effects of that on the millennial generation. We were said to be worse off economically and make less over our lifetime as a result. And that wasn't the only once-in-a-century event that hit us. We had the pandemic, which is still doing a ton of damage economically to generational prospects. We have a completely upside-down economy, and I detailed all of that awful, terrible nonsense in this video I did recently about what factors truly matter to everyday people. Wages are stagnant, inflation is insane, corporate profits are skyrocketing, and greed is our god. Unfortunately, the communion wafers are made of millennials. What's deeply concerning, and that the study authors point out here, is that all the data stops before Trump gets back in the White House. We've seen this administration now cut funding for healthcare and safety nets for Americans who need all of that. And we're seeing RFK Jr. push for funding cuts to research for vital medical services like vaccines, and push to ban everyday medicines that help millions of people every day. At the same time, we've lost the ability to track health outcomes accurately. And this together is going to be a complete disaster. Usually I have something funny to say about now, or I have like a thing you could do to try to help a little bit, but I don't have any of that this time. I am genuinely just exasperated, and I'm very worried about this. As a cancer survivor, I have a long history of struggling with my own mortality from a young age, and I find it genuinely difficult to engage with this study. So yeah, I think it's bubble time. Bubbles all around. And let's get the shit out of America, so like sea bubbles, big ocean-going bubble boats. Let's go start a new thing off in the ocean somewhere where we just eat green sea sludge and stay healthy, and also stay far away from whatever it is that's disintegrating the US population from the inside out. Let's go do some good off in the ocean somewhere, because here might just be a death trap. I'll see you in the next one. You know, if any of us are still even around by then. Oh, I'll live long because I'm a strong millennial. Big ocean-going bubble boats. Oh, I'm the strongest millennial.